Hello, my friends. Today I want to talk with you about something very important that just happened in our country. The Supreme Court has made a major decision, and this one is different because all 9 justices agreed. That almost never happens, which shows us how serious this moment really is. Their ruling affects two things that matter deeply to every American: your right to protect yourself and your family, and your right to keep your private life safe from unnecessary government intrusion. I know many of you have lived through decades of changes in laws, policies, and politics. Sometimes it feels like our voices are pushed aside, or that the system gets more complicated than it needs to be. But this decision is one that reaches right into your home, your peace of mind, and even the way you live day to day. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear idea of what has changed, why it matters, and what you should expect moving forward. Before we go further, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from today? Share your city or state in the comments. It's always encouraging to see how people across America are paying attention to these important issues. Point 1. What the Supreme Court decided. The first thing you need to know is just how unusual this ruling really is. The Supreme Court, which often seems split and divided, came together on this case with a unanimous decision. All 9 justices agreed, every single one. That doesn't happen often, especially on issues as sensitive as guns and privacy. Usually we see sharp disagreements, but this time the court spoke with one voice, and that alone should tell us the importance of what they decided. At the heart of the ruling are 2 amendments that protect our daily lives: the Second Amendment, which deals with your right to own and carry a firearm, and the Fourth Amendment, which safeguards your privacy. For many years, both of these rights have been tested by states, local governments, and even law enforcement agencies. The court finally said enough is enough. Citizens must not be left powerless under the weight of confusing laws and government shortcuts. Let's start with the Second Amendment. For a long time, some states created barriers so high that an ordinary law-abiding person could barely exercise their right to own or carry a firearm for self-defense. Permits took months, fees stacked up, and restrictions made it nearly impossible to purchase or carry a gun for self-defense. The court made it clear that this is not how the Constitution works. The right to bear arms is not limited to militias or certain groups. It belongs to individuals. And at its very core, the Second Amendment is about self-defense, especially in your own home. That means governments cannot build so many hurdles that your right becomes meaningless. Then there is the Fourth Amendment, the one that protects your privacy. Over the years, exceptions and loopholes allowed authorities to bypass proper legal steps. Police could sometimes enter homes, search cars, or even access phone and digital records without a warrant. The court put a stop to that pattern. From now on, warrantless searches face much stricter limits. If law enforcement wants to look into your home, your car, or your digital life, your emails, texts, cloud files, they need solid legal grounds and proper authorization. This ruling makes it clear: rights are not optional, and they are not supposed to be watered down just because it makes the government's job easier. Your safety, your privacy, and your dignity are guaranteed by the Constitution, and the court has reminded the nation that these protections must be honored. Point 2. Why this ruling matters for gun owners. Now let's talk about what this ruling means in practical terms, especially for those of you who own a firearm or have thought about getting one. For years, in many states, the process of owning a gun has been weighed down with restrictions. Some of you may have faced long waiting periods, stacks of paperwork, or fees that felt unfair. Others may have discovered that certain common firearms were completely banned. For many older adults living on fixed incomes or in neighborhoods where safety is a real concern, those obstacles felt discouraging and even intimidating. The Supreme Court's decision changes that landscape in a major way. By affirming that the Second Amendment protects individuals, not just groups, the court has reminded lawmakers that your right to self-defense is real and enforceable. It's not just an idea written on paper, it is something you can actually act on without being buried under endless red tape. This doesn't mean that all gun laws are gone. There will still be rules, but now those rules must be reasonable, fair, and clearly justified. If a state tries to pass a law that makes it nearly impossible for an ordinary, law-abiding person to buy or keep a firearm, that law is vulnerable to being challenged in court. The government can no longer rely on excessive restrictions that discourage citizens from exercising their rights. For seniors, this ruling has a very personal impact. Many of you live alone or with a spouse, and the thought of being able to protect yourself at home provides peace of mind. The court highlighted that self-defense inside the home is at the very core of the Second Amendment. That means governments cannot interfere in a way that leaves you defenseless. You should not have to wait months for approval or pay burdensome fees just to have the basic means of protection. Another important part of this decision is what may come next. Across the country, laws that once banned certain firearms, required long delays, or created heavy costs are now open to challenge. We can expect advocacy groups, lawyers, and ordinary citizens to begin testing these laws in court. Some may be struck down, others rewritten, but the pressure is now on the states to respect what the Supreme Court has affirmed. For you, the takeaway is simple. Your right to defend yourself is stronger today than it was before this ruling. The Constitution protects it, the court has reinforced it, and that means your voice carries weight. Point 3. The impact on privacy and searches. Now let's turn to the part of the ruling that touches every American, whether you own a firearm or not, your right to privacy. This is where the Fourth Amendment comes in, and the court's message is very clear. Your private life deserves stronger protection. For too long, there have been exceptions that gave law enforcement a wide path to step around the Constitution. Maybe they said it was an emergency, or tied a search to a minor violation, or found another loophole. In practice, this meant police could sometimes enter a home without a proper warrant, search a vehicle without enough justification, or even pull personal records, like phone logs or digital files, without going through the right legal process. Many Americans accepted this as the way things work, but the court said this has gone too far. From now on, warrantless searches face much stricter limits. If law enforcement wants access to your home, your car, or your digital life, your emails, texts, photos, or documents stored in the cloud, they must have strong legal grounds and proper authorization. The court emphasized that government convenience is not an excuse to ignore the Constitution. For seniors, this ruling is especially meaningful. Many older adults already feel vulnerable to scams, fraud, and even government overreach. The thought that someone could easily dig into your personal information or enter your home without the right process creates stress and uncertainty. This decision is a reassurance. Your personal life, your belongings, and even your digital world are protected unless there is a clear legal reason to access them. It's also important to remember that privacy today isn't just about a locked door or a mailbox. So much of our lives, medical records, family photos, letters, financial details, are now kept on phones and computers. The court made it clear that technology does not erase your constitutional protections. In fact, it strengthens the need for them. Your digital life is as private as your living room. This ruling also puts responsibility back on law enforcement. Officers will need to follow the rules closely, and if they don't, their actions can be challenged. For ordinary citizens, that means a stronger shield. In plain terms, the court reminded everyone that privacy is not a luxury, it is a fundamental right, and it belongs to you. Point 4.
How states might respond. Now that the Supreme Court has spoken so clearly, the big question is, what happens next in the states? Because while the court sets the standard, it's the states that create and enforce many of the rules that shape our daily lives. And this ruling is going to shake things up in more ways than one. Let's start with gun laws. Some states have very strict requirements, long waiting periods, heavy registration processes, limits on which firearms can be owned, and sometimes even bans on common types of guns. With this new ruling, those states are under real pressure. Laws that make it nearly impossible for ordinary, law-abiding people to exercise their rights will face challenges in court. Legislators may be forced to rewrite or even repeal laws that no longer meet the new constitutional standard. This will spark lawsuits, debates in state assemblies, and a lot of back and forth between political parties. The same goes for privacy and search practices. Many police departments have operated under old rules that gave them wide freedom to carry out searches without proper warrants. Now, those practices will need to change. Officers will have to be retrained, handbooks updated, and new protocols written to make sure searches respect the stronger protections the court has laid down. This won't happen overnight. It takes time for institutions to adjust, but if they don't, their actions could be ruled illegal. This shift will also ripple into state courts. Judges will start seeing more cases where citizens challenge laws or police actions that used to be considered acceptable. That means more appeals, more legal battles, and for a while, some confusion. Local officials may tell you one thing while the courts decide another, and during this period, the rules may feel unclear. For seniors, the most important point is this: change is coming, but it may take time to fully settle. If you live in a state with strict gun laws or broad search practices, expect to see those laws questioned and possibly reshaped. Some may loosen, others may be rewritten, and many will face challenges. The bottom line is that the Supreme Court has drawn a clear line. Now it's up to the states to walk it, and that process will bring debate, adjustment, and sometimes frustration. But over time, it will shape how your rights are respected where you live.
Point 5. Key takeaways for everyone. We've covered a lot, but let's bring it all together in a way that's easy to remember. Supreme Court rulings can sometimes feel distant, buried in legal terms, but this one reaches into everyday life and changes how you live with both safety and privacy. The first big takeaway is about self-defense. The court has made it harder for governments to create barriers that leave people unable to protect themselves. If you are a responsible citizen who simply wants peace of mind at home, the law is now more clearly on your side. You don't need to feel that endless rules or confusing paperwork will leave you without options when it comes to defending yourself or your loved ones. The second takeaway is about privacy. For years, many of us worried about how easily personal information could be taken or viewed. This decision makes it clear. Your home and your digital life are not open doors. Police and government agencies have to follow proper steps before they can access what belongs to you. That means your family photos, medical records, and private conversations are better shielded than before. The third point to remember is that the landscape in your state may change. Some laws could be rewritten, others challenged in court, and some might disappear altogether. This won't all happen at once, but over time you'll notice differences. It's a reminder that rights are not just words, they shape the rules that govern your daily life. Finally, this ruling shows that the Constitution still has power to protect ordinary people. Your dignity, your independence, and your freedom are not forgotten. The justices have reminded lawmakers and officials that rights are not just traditions from the past. They are protections meant for today, right now. For older Americans, this is reassuring. Many of you have lived through decades of change, some of it encouraging, some of it unsettling. This decision is a signal that the system can still work in your favor. Your rights are real, they matter, and they are enforceable. More debates and lawsuits will follow, but for now, you can take comfort in knowing that both your safety and your privacy have been strengthened by the highest court in the land. What the Supreme Court has done is more than just make headlines. It has given every American a reason to pause and reflect. A unanimous decision from all 9 justices sends a strong signal. Your rights are not up for negotiation. Whether it is the right to defend yourself at home or the right to keep your private life safe from unnecessary intrusion, the court has made it plain that these protections still matter. For many seniors, this comes as reassurance. You've seen countless changes in laws, politics, and society over the decades. Some changes brought progress, others brought frustration. But this ruling is a reminder that the Constitution is not an old piece of paper, it is a living promise. It protects you today just as it did when you were younger. It protects your dignity, your independence, and your ability to live with peace of mind. This decision also tells lawmakers and law enforcement something important. Convenience and control are not excuses to step on the rights of ordinary citizens. If a state passes a law that builds unnecessary walls around self-defense, it will face challenges. If an agency tries to cut corners on privacy, it will be held accountable. The court has drawn a line, and now everyone else must respect it. Of course, this is not the end of the story. States will react, lawsuits will be filed, and debates will continue. There may be confusion along the way as new rules are written and old ones are questioned, but none of that should make you feel powerless. On the contrary, this is a moment to remember that your voice and your rights still carry weight. For older Americans especially, the message is clear. You are not forgotten. Your safety at home, your sense of independence, and your right to live without constant fear of intrusion are all protected. That doesn't erase every problem, but it does set a stronger foundation for you and your family. So as we close, I'd like to ask you something. How does this decision make you feel? Do you believe it will change your daily life in a real way? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your experiences and opinions matter, and they may help someone else who is trying to make sense of these changes. Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay confident in the knowledge that your rights are still alive and well. No matter your age, you deserve the protection and respect promised by the Constitution. This ruling is proof that those promises still stand. Before you go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss important updates that affect your rights and your future.